Hello, good afternoon. It's Adil Fazal here, bringing you a market wrap-up or afternoon market insight of the European indices on the Friday, the 18th of December 2015. Okay, let's start by trying to dissect the fundamentals first of all. Fundamentals, as we all know, Asian markets down quite substantially overnight. We had the BOJ certainly active, a lot of volatility there. With regard, what they actually did was a mini QE, which really the markets in terms of expectation wise were very disappointed, hence the reason why the Nikkei was down almost 400 points. The Shanghai flat, the Hang Seng certainly minus 0.5%, but the main story was the Mr. Shkreli news, his potential fraud, obviously created fear and uncertainty and sent the markets skidding lower. Okay, so that's basically the summation. Now, if you look at the Nasdaq itself, you can see that we are now into gap fill support at 4570. Quite a substantial sell-off on the Nasdaq itself. Now the S&P 500 also. The S&P now on the daily chart, you can see it's a bearish engulfing candle. On the 60-minute chart, you have a H&S formation, and we are into that gap fill support. The pivot low on the futures market on the S&P, I think we touched a 2020 or 2021 low, and the markets now are retracing quite handsomely. Okay, so certainly a bounce, and that will be your potential pivot low. Yes, we do have a H&S target at 2015, given the fact that Shanghai was flat, given the fact that we've now factored in and baked in the potential bearish news, we are now looking to potentially move higher. Aussie Kiwi into support, oil bouncing here, copper bullish, certainly looking to move higher. Okay, that will be your pivot low on the day from my perspective. Yeah, obviously if we do fall lower than 2015, well, I can't see the S&P going below 2015, 2020 today. Okay, so certainly looking for a potential move higher. Now now that I've covered the actual macro news, let's look at the actual economic data points. Now, yes, we had business sentiment indicator in China certainly beating, but we had another report in terms of the economy. Let's just bring up the tweet itself, if I can go back and retrace and go back. Here you had Moody's places a ratings downgrade on BHP, hence the reason why the FTSE was certainly weak this morning. China's beige book shows disturbing deterioration in economy. Now, it's not exactly a bullish sign, so that certainly obviously caused the FTSE to sell off. But a lot of that has all been baked into the cake now, or baked into this market. Okay, so certainly take that in stride. So the FTSE itself currently down 0.7%, the DAX 1.3%, the CAC 1.4%. So certainly the markets have, from my perspective, certainly baked in all the bad news. Now, let's bring up the actual Euro stocks first of all. You can see ever since the Euro stocks negated the previous support equals resistance, putting a topping tail, it's certainly finding weakness. The 60-minute chart now, I've obviously closed that gap at 3246. I didn't expect that gap to close, given the fact that the Euro was certainly languishing and weak. Now, previous resistance equals support here. You do have some horizontal support here. So this is your pivot low, and you are looking to potentially bounce from here. Okay, 10-minute chart. Yes, we've closed the gap. Certainly bounced off gap fill, and certainly looking to potentially move higher from my perspective. Now, cross-referencing that with the German DAX. German DAX certainly weak today. The daily chart certainly is finding resistance. We did have a key diagonal trend line. Obviously, that's failed to hold. It hasn't closed the gap, so again, that's bullish, given the fact that it's holding previous resistance equals support. That's certainly a bullish sign for the German DAX, so bear that in mind, okay? Looking at the 10-minute chart on the German DAX, you are approaching that previous resistance equals support. You have the 200 MA below. On-fill gap remains open. Very hard to see that gap close today, given the bullish nature. Now, the FTSE 100, let's bring up the chart, the FTSE here. The weekly chart, yes, we're certainly holding that double bottom support. Daily chart certainly bounced. Yes, we held that 50% retrace. It's an inside bar of yesterday's price action thus far, so certainly take that into consideration as well. 200 MA has held, horizontal support has held, and gap fill has held. So we are looking for a potential bounce here. Bear in mind, we do have an on-fill gap above at the 6115 level, and again, we will be looking to potentially target that if oil can certainly have a good rebound here. The French CAC, let's just bring up the CAC itself as well. French CAC certainly the weakest of all the European indices, given the fact that it's actually fallen below gap fill, but we are into previous resistance equals support, so bear that in mind. I'm looking for a potential thrust higher, and the gap has certainly closed on the downside at 4627, and therefore licensed to rally based on this policy divergence trade. Okay, so certainly take that into consideration too. Okay, I think that's a market wrap up. I think the main focus will be on oil. Now it certainly is bouncing and showing promise here. It's a double bottom on oil on the 4-hour chart, and you are looking for a potential bounce. Copper certainly very bullish today, as you can see here. Quite a stellar rally in copper, and that should certainly help the risk trade, and certainly help the markets to inflate higher. So certainly take that into consideration too. Okay, wish you the best in terms of economic data for the rest of the day. You have US PM, USD market PMI, composite PMI, and services PMI. Fed manufacturing, and Mr. Lacker speaking as well. So it should be an interesting afternoon. Trade safe. Be sure to visit cfds.com for your trading needs. Goodbye now.